Hello and welcome to another Witcher lore video. I hold today's topic dear in my heart because it joined Geralt and Yennefer and created my favorite love story of all times. Obviously, we're talking about Djin, one of the most mysterious and powerful creatures from the Witcher lore. Where did they come from? How powerful are they really? And what exactly did Geralt wish that forever tied him to Yennefer? Let's talk about it. In the Witcher universe, Djin are not cute wish granters. They are elementals, primordial beings created from pure magic. Djin is a member of Genie family. They are inhabitants of the elemental planes of forces of nature: earth, air, water, and fire. There are 4 elemental classes: Fire Genie, which is Ifrit; Earth Genie, which is Dao; Water Genie, which is Marid; and Air Genie, which is Djin. Herbert Stamford, a mage, took Dao under his service. He once moved a mountain because it obscured the view from his tower. Nobody has managed to do something like that before or ever since, because Stamford, so as they say, had the service of Dao, an Earth Genie. There is not much information about Marid, but it is said enormous waves and catastrophic rains are certainly the work of Marids. Ifrits or Afrits are Genie from the plane of fire. When summoned, they generally do not grant wishes, unless the summoning party wishes to die or have someone killed. These creatures are without a doubt intelligent, but mortals cannot penetrate their minds. This is just as well because their vision of all-encompassing inferno would most certainly drive any human mad. And finally, Djin are made entirely of chaotic air magic. Wild storms, lightning, wind that can tear cities apart. Geralt himself once said, "A Djin is no pet to be toyed with. It's a force of nature." The origins of Djin in Witcher lore traces back to mysterious conjunction of spheres, the cosmic event which flooded the world with monsters, magic, and beings from other dimensions. Djinns were never meant to exist in the human world, but sorcerers, greedy for power, learned to bind them into objects, bottles, seals, lamps, etc., imprisoning chaos itself. The mage can then draw on its energy, using it to cast spells, without having to call on powers from traditional sources. And with that came wish magic. A Djin for a mage is like gold for miner. The Djin is capable of doing things that a mage can only dream of, destroying a whole city easy, achieving things deemed impossible even for mages, piece of cake. Djin are basically gods, so it is understandable that mages will risk their lives to catch one. A good example is Yennefer. She always wanted to be a mother, but it was impossible. Even magic couldn't help her, so she wanted to capture a Djin in order to be able to have a child. But before we continue, if you liked the video so far, please make sure to like the video, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be notified of the upcoming Witcher videos. Here's the brutal truth. Djin hate being enslaved, and they despise granting wishes. They are mischievous in nature, so when you wish something, they will twist your words to ruin you. In Witcher lore, wishes are literal. Intent doesn't matter, wording does. And loopholes? Djin love loopholes. For example, "I wish to never feel pain again." The Djin's answer, "Sure, let me kill your nervous system completely." So, what happened when Geralt stumbled upon a Djin? Fortunately, we also have Djin appear in the books in the Last Wish story, one of the most epic and defining moments of the whole novels. I will read a very condensed version of it. Geralt and Dandelion are out fishing out of hunger, where they accidentally pull out an ancient jar. When Geralt and Dandelion fight over it, the jar falls and breaks, and a Djin bursts out. Geralt, sensing danger, takes cover, but Dandelion, being the idiot that he is, stands his ground. Thinking he is the master of the Djin now, starts uttering his wishes, which are really funny. First, he asks for the death of Waldo Marks, a rival bard, and then he asks Virginia to succumb to him. But before he can utter his third wish, which probably would have been something even more stupid, the Djinn saves him from embarrassing himself more and attacks Dandelion. Geralt rushes to help, but there is nothing he really can do. He soon learns that the sword is not a weapon you wanna use against a being that is made of pure magic. So he remembers some exorcism from a language he doesn't understand and unknowingly tells the Djinn to go fuck himself, which finally the Djinn does and disappears. Here we have the first clue that Geralt is actually the master of the Djinn, not Dandelion, but he realizes that later in the story. Now, to cut to the chase, Dandelion is injured and Geralt seeks help, and through conversation with some elves realizes that Dandelion's wounds are magical and only a sorceress can help. As it so happens, Yennefer is in town, so Geralt, who up until this point doesn't know her, goes to seek her help. Their first interaction is hilarious. Yennefer agrees to help but tells Geralt to take a bath as he stinks. It is there that Geralt starts to have feelings for her. After a while, Yennefer summons Geralt upstairs. Dandelion is happily, safely asleep, and there is only the question of price. Here, Yennefer traps Geralt in the room. After a rather fruitless argument, Geralt passes out, and the next thing Geralt knows, he is in jail. Under the influence of Yennefer's spell, Geralt went rampaging through the town, punishing anyone who had ever insulted Yennefer. That's how he ended up in a cell. Then a guard comes in and starts spitting Geralt, where he expresses the wish that the man simply burst, and to everyone's surprise, the guard does so. Here, Geralt realizes he is the master of the Djinn. At this point, Yennefer has lured the Djinn into town and is trying to capture it to gain its amazing powers. The genie is much stronger than expected though. Since Geralt was the one holding the seal last, he was the master of the Djinn. His first wish was the incantation he used on the genie, and his second was he wished for the god to burst, and thus the genie is still awaiting Geralt's third wish. Because the genie still has to fulfill his master's last wish, he is not yet freed, and thus not able to be captured by Yennefer. So Geralt rushes to help Yennefer, asking her to let go of the Djinn, but Yennefer is determined, and after a long back and forth, Geralt, to save Yennefer, utters his last wish, and immediately after, the Djinn is freed, but almost nothing is left of the building. Under the rubble, Yennefer finds herself in Geralt's arms, close and intimate. Just moments later, Yennefer and Geralt begin to make love, in the remains of what was the beginning of the stormy relationship. To this day, the exact words of Geralt's wish are never fully revealed. But based on clues from books and games, here's the leading theory. Djinn can't kill its master, and Geralt very cleverly used that against Djinn. Geralt wished for their fates, his and Yennefer's, to be forever intertwined, meaning if she dies, he dies. So their destinies are chained together. And since the Djinn couldn't kill its master, now he couldn't kill Yennefer either. Djinn in The Witcher represents something far scarier than just raw power. They symbolize desire gone wrong, power without control, and the danger of getting exactly what you asked for. Because in this world, magic has rules, and every wish has a price. Djinn also has a very interesting mythology, but before that, let's read Witcher Bestiary.
The pitcher emitted a puff of glowing red smoke. The smoke pulsated, then gathered up into an irregular sphere floating in front of the poet's head. The first longing, a tale fantastic in all ways. A Djinn is a powerful air spirit, a condensation of the power of that element endowed with consciousness and character, the latter usually nasty. According to legend, Djinn can grant even the most far-fetched wishes, though they do so very begrudgingly. Unusually powerful mages can capture and tame these beings. The mage can then draw on its energy, using it to cast spells without having to call on power from traditional sources. Only a sparse handful have managed this feat, however, for Djinn fight to avoid such a fate with stubborn determination. To imprison a Djin and bend it to one's will, one must first weaken it. And that is no easy feat. Fighting a Djin is extraordinarily difficult. They can fling off spells in an instant that the most accomplished human mages could never cast with years of preparation. What's more, by manipulating the element of air, they can summon powerful storms, hurricanes, and gales. Luckily, as magic beings, they are vulnerable to silver, yet steel will do them no harm.
Before humans ever walked the earth, there were other beings, powerful, mysterious, and hidden in the shadows. They are called Djin, and their story is way older and way wilder than most people think. In Arabic tradition, the story of mankind doesn't begin with Adam and Eve alone. Long before humans, God created the Djin, beings made from smokeless fire, and among them there was one particularly proud and powerful figure, Iblis. When God created Adam, he commanded all angels and jinns to bow. The angels obeyed, but Iblis refused. Why? Because Adam was made of clay and Iblis thought fire was superior. That moment of pride cost him everything. Banished from heaven, Iblis became what we know today as Satan, and ever since he's been locked in war against humans. But not all Djin are evil. In fact, Djin are like humans in many ways. Unlike typical ghosts or demons, Djin are not purely good or evil. They're more like another race of beings. They have free will, families, even different religions. Some are good, some not so much. They live in a parallel world, known as Al-Ghaib, or the unseen. Hidden from our eyes, but close enough to influence us in strange, subtle ways. Djin can shapeshift into animals like snakes, scorpions, lizards, or even take human form. They can fall in love, marry humans, and even have children with them. Although most Djin prefer to stay away from humans, some are believed to interact, especially if angered or summoned. If a human harms a Djin, the Djin might take revenge, sometimes by possessing the person's body, which is where exorcism practice came in. Ancient Arab tribes believed in the Djin. Some even worshipped them like gods of nature. But here's where it gets even crazier. According to old Arab legends, the Djin were first rulers of the earth. They fought epic battles against other ancient creatures called Djin and Bin, beings made of wind and water. Eventually, their war got so destructive that angels were sent down to defeat them. Sounds like something out of fancy novel, but these stories have echoed for centuries. Prophet Suleiman was famously given control over Djin. Legends say that he used them to build grand structures like temples of Suleiman, and some even claim the pyramids. Now back to Iblis, the ultimate villain. According to Arab scholars, Iblis had 5 sons, each causing their own brand of chaos. Thaber, violence and injury. Misut, lies and deception. Zamber, corruption in business. Awar, seduction and adultery. And Dasim, the worst of all, causing family breakdowns. Their mission? To lead humans astray, quietly, patiently, and sometimes from within their own homes. The stories of Djin possession are still common across the Arab world today. From mysterious illnesses to sudden personality changes, some people believe that bad Djin can take control of human. Traditional healers and spiritual music are often used to drive them away. But not all encounters with Djin are terrifying. Some stories tell of Djin helping humans, protecting them, or even falling in love with them, though those tales rarely end well. So the next time you hear a strange whisper or feel like you're being watched, remember this: we aren't the only ones living on this earth. The Djin are still here, watching, waiting, hidden in the unseen. Hello and welcome to another Witcher lore video. Imagine being hired to fight a walking slab of stone with fists the size of barrels and a heart of obsidian. That, my friends, is Golem. Today we are delving into the lore of the Golem, one of the most frustrating yet fascinating creatures in the Witcher universe. And then we'll discuss its roots in mythology. So let's begin. Golems are unique from other monsters in a sense that they are not alive, at least not in a traditional way. Golems are just slabs of stone brought to life by magic, kinda like robots. They are not alive, but they are functional. In The Witcher 1, it was said that golems were brought to life by magical lightning bolt, and could be destroyed by just that. The golem, in traditional sense, is often portrayed as a clumsy, faceless figure made of clay or as a perfect effigy of a man. But in The Witcher, Golem became a piece of roughly hewn rock, animated by a magical obsidian heart placed inside the beast's chest by its maker. The mage who created it was no sculptor. He cared little for aesthetics and focused on functionality. This creature was meant to work and defend its master's property, and the golem performs these tasks, especially the latter, perfectly, with ruthless efficiency. As effective as they are in fighting, golems aren't mentally bright, which makes assigning tasks for them tricky. There is an interesting story about a golem and a mage who wasn't so careful. Once an absent-minded mage created a golem and ordered his new servant to fetch water before burying himself in his scholarly books. The golem kept carrying water day and night without pause, and ultimately flooded not only the mage's house but the whole city. However, as I said, what they lack in intelligence department, they make up for in fighting. They have a good set of skills and variety of attacks, combined with their stone armor, which makes them a nightmare to fight. However, because of the fact that they are brought to life by magic, mages and sorceresses can defeat them with more ease. The characteristics of golems make them superior to the most of other monsters in the Witcher universe, who are made of flesh and bone. Not only they can't defeat a golem, they wouldn't even be able to make a scratch. Also, golems being made of rock will not tire at all, and are able to fight till the end of the world without a drop of sweat. Golem's passive skill, stone armor, allows him to get into the battle, and he gets more armor and magical resistance the longer he stays in a battle. But it does not end there. Golem has far more interesting skills, including summoning gargoyles. Golems can summon gargoyles, which lands on the ground, causing damage to all within its radius, and slows them down. The creature starts to follow the closest enemy, only to explode when it reaches him, or after a few seconds, dealing even more damage. A stone pillar. The skill is perfect for controlling opponents' moves. The golem strikes the ground with all its might, causing a small tectonic rift that travels in the pointed direction, pushing enemies to the side. At the end of the rift, a stone pillar erects from the ground, dealing extra damage and further moving enemies to the side. And finally, contravention. Golem's special skill needs to be used carefully. It's very easy to perform, but choosing the right moment is the greatest challenge. When used, the golem explodes into pieces, which start to rotate really fast, drawing all the enemies in the vicinity to the center. After a short moment, Golem explodes again, just to reconstruct himself, damaging the enemies caught at the range. Most of these skills refer back to Witcher 2. However, it's time to read the Bestiary in The Witcher 3, and as usual, after that, we will delve into its roots in mythology.
If we want us to break through this wall, we're going to need 20 sappers, 7 mules, and 100 weight of saltpeter, or 1 golem. Vilmer Brass, foreman at Mount Carbon. Golems are mindless matter, brought to life by a spell. They obey their creator's orders without question. Their boundless strength, ability to withstand pain, endless patience, and the fact that they need not one jot of food or drink makes them the best servants or guards anyone could ask for. Once provoked, they will not tire of battle until they have either crushed their opponent or themselves crumbled to dust. Defeating a golem is extraordinarily difficult. For obvious reasons, it does not bleed, it feels no fear or mercy, and it is invulnerable to fire and poison. What's more, a golem's body is as hard as the rock it is sometimes heft out of, so even a silver blade will barely wound it. The monster's only weakness is acid. A blade covered in acrid oil can thus increase one's chances for victory. Golems use no weapons, for they have no need. Their fists, weighing over 100 pounds each, can crush solid granite with one hit. A blow from a golem should thus be avoided at all costs. There is no shield that can stop it, nor sword that can parry it. That is no easy task, for these creatures are able to move with surprising speed. Luckily, their enormous mass means they are not very agile. Once a golem begins a charge, it cannot stop quickly, a fact experienced witches use to their advantage.
In Jewish folklore, golem is created entirely from inanimate matter, usually a clay or mud. And the first example of that dates back to Adam. He was a golem for the first 12 hours of his existence, indicating that he was a body without a soul. Some believe this legend regarding the creation of golem is merely symbolic in nature and may refer to the person's spiritual awakening. There are several ways given to bring the golem to life. One way, for example, is if its creator were to walk or dance around it while saying a combination of letters from Hebrew alphabet and the secret name of God. In another version, the letters Aleph, Mem, and Tau, meaning truth, are required to be written on the golem's forehead in order to give it life. A third way of bringing golem to life is to write the name of God on a parchment and stick it into golem's arms or mouth. One of the most famous golem stories is about Rabbi Judah, a Jewish mystic and philosopher. This rabbi is believed to have lived at the end of 16th century in Prague, which was then a part of Holy Roman Empire. At this time, the empire was ruled by Radolf II. Although Radolf was an enlightened emperor, the Jews of Prague were subjected to anti-Semitic attacks. In order to protect the Jewish quarters, the rabbi created a golem. As the golem possessed incredible strength, it also helped out with physical labor in the rabbi's household and synagogue. Additionally, the golem was given a special necklace made of deer skin decorated with mystic signs. This necklace made the golem invisible. Another version of the story states that a Jewish-hating priest tried to incite the Christians of Prague against the Jews near the Easter during the spring of 50 AD. As a result, Rabbi created the golem to protect his people during the Easter season. While the golem succeeded in protecting the Jews, the story has a less than happy ending. The golem grew stronger and stronger, but it became increasingly destructive as well. Instead of doing good deeds, the golem began to wreak havoc and threatened innocent lives. As a result, Rabbi removed the name of God from the golem, turning it back into a lifeless statue. Some believe that the golem was hidden by the rabbi in the attic. In addition, the entrance to the attic was forbidden for centuries and the stairs to the area were removed. When the synagogue was finally explored hundreds of years later, there was no trace of anything resembling a golem. In most stories, golems are described as male in appearance and were made to help save Jewish people, even if there was an unfortunate end to the story. However, there are few notable legends about female golems as well. A rabbi named Horowitz, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, is said to have allegedly created a beautifully silent golem for him to have sex with. This was not as common as the stories about female golems being created as maidservants that would cook and clean. This video is going to be a little different as I'm going to cover 3 different monsters. Ice, fire and earth elementals are basically different types of golems. I made a video about the Golem, and there I talked about its mythology roots, so I'm not going to do it here. However, each of them, because of the element they are made of, have differences, so without further ado, let's begin. Earth and fire elementals were present in The Witcher 2, and were classified as golems. However, Witcher 3 changed them into elementals. I side with The Witcher 2 here, as I believe they are golems. However, golems themselves are classified as elementals, so I guess you could call them that. Let's first talk about the Earth Elemental. It all started with The Witcher 2. However, Witcher 2 Earth Elemental was different than Witcher 3's. For one, it was a single entity. There wasn't Earth Elementals but one Earth Elemental, with history of its own. It was said that the Earth Elemental is a younger brother of the legendary Dao, the genie capable of creating earthquakes and flattening mountains. Younger and less powerful, but also more mischievous. Felling trees, crushing walls, and smashing people to pulp can be counted among this creature's pranks. It was categorized as a golem and had the characteristics of a golem. Like its Witcher 3 brother, the Earth Elemental is a loyal and tireless guardian, always alert and impossible to surprise. It can sense intruders the moment they enter its domain, and it knows no fear, neither of the monsters nor humans. Its greatest strength lies in its massive arms. A single blow is as powerful as a battering ram, capable of turning a person into nothing more than a smear. Though it appears slow, it can strike with surprising speed and devastating force. Fighting it requires every tool at your disposal: potions, magic, and most importantly, strong, heavy attacks. Its body is made of solid stone, so only powerful blows can break through its defense. Witcher 3 didn't add much to this monster other than changing its category to elemental. Its bestiary reads:
How to survive an encounter with an earth element. Simple. Run. Fast as you can. Nino Merc, bounty hunter. Earth elementals are made of mud, clay, sand, and rock dust clumped together with water and brought alive with magic. While seemingly slow and ponderous, these creatures are nevertheless dangerous and should be avoided at all costs. Earth elementals can withstand a tremendous amount of punishment. Due to their enormous mass, they are virtually impossible to knock off balance. They do not bleed, nor feel any pain from poison or even fire. They kill men with astonishing ease, whether by smashing them with their fists or hurling enormous stones at them. Their only weakness is their vulnerability to dimeritium dust. Thus, before combat, one should prepare a full arsenal of bombs containing this ingredient.
Now, it is time for the Fire Elemental. Its lore goes back to Witcher 2, where the sorcerers opened the gate to dimensions ruled by 4 elements and forces, and then bonded the Fire Elemental by magic. However, it is not said that Fire Elemental is descendant of any genie. It actually was extracted from another world. As the name suggests, it is an agent of destruction, using fire to incinerate the enemies of its master. Finally, it is said that if its master is passionate smoker, the elemental will provide fire to light the pipe. Let's hear its Witcher entry and then talk about Ice Elemental.
The first fire elemental was created by Rancent Alvaro. Sadly, flames engulfed his entire laboratory, burning it, along with every other building on his block, to ash. Tavik Sandoval, Origins of Magic Arcana. Fire is the most destructive of the elements, thus the aggressive lethality of the creature that embodies its essence should come as no surprise. Fire elementals are forged in complicated magic rituals for one purpose: destruction, and they pursue this with murderous determination. This elemental attacks using fireballs and streams of flame, which reduce anything in their path to ashes in the blink of an eye. Like golems and other elementals, poison does not touch it, nor does it bleed. Fire-based spells not only do no harm, but in fact strengthen it, Thus one should by no means think of striking it with Igni. Though vulnerable to silver blades, getting within sword's reach of one is dangerous due to the furnace-like heat they emanate. When fighting a fire elemental, one should thus strike from a distance, using frost-spewing and dimeritium bombs, for they will do it the most damage.
And finally, let's talk about the ice elementals. They are literally made of hard ice. You'd think Igni is a good sign to use against them as they are made of ice and fire can melt it, but to the contrary, ice elementals are solid as rock and Igni does nothing to them. Interesting fact about them is that Wild Hunt, or to be more precise, Cranseer, summons and uses them in his fight with Geralt. I believe there's a link between ice elementals and Wild Hunt, but they don't exclusively belong to the Wild Hunt, as you can find one guarding an ancient rune in Skellige. Let's listen to its bestiary.
I thought to myself, what's a hunk of ice doing in the middle of some lab? And then that hunk of ice got up and broke my legs. Yannick laughed, burglar. An ice elemental is a mass of frozen water, animated by magic. Deprived of consciousness or independent will, this elemental is boundlessly obedient to the orders of the mage who created it. Those orders usually contain but one syllable: kill. Ice elementals have no qualms about carrying out this order, nor any particular difficulty in doing so. Gifted with incredible strength, they are completely invulnerable to poison and fire, deprived of sensitive organs, hard as permafrost, and all in all incredibly difficult opponents. A witch's only chance at tipping the scales towards victory is to toss a dimeritium bomb. Shrapnel made of this metal interferes with the workings of the spell that gives this creature life. Beyond that remains only prayer.
They race through the night, trailing the spectral riders of the Wild Hunt. Born of frost and magic, these beasts bring death and despair wherever they tread. Today we delve into the chilling lore of the Hounds of the Wild Hunt from the Witcher universe. The Hounds of the Wild Hunt are elemental creatures, often seen accompanying the spectral riders known as the Wild Hunt. Legends suggest they are born of magical ice crystals, embodying the very essence of cold and death. These beasts are not mere animals, they are manifestation of otherworldly magic, unleashed upon the world during the Hunt's passage. The game does not provide us with much information about these hounds, but based on their category and what we have observed in the game, we can have valid theories. Now, I'm not saying these theories are 100% true, however, they are based on the information presented, not just speculation. Elementals have two things in common. First, they are made of one of the four elements. Second, they are usually brought into servitude by magic. Apart from genies, other elementals are just chunks of stone formed and brought to life by magic. They have no consciousness and only carry out orders, and since they are not biological beings, they never get tired, making them the perfect servants. Hounds of the Wild Hunt are also elementals, so they most probably were made the way golems were made. Chunks of stone brought to life by magic and serving the orders of their master, who most probably is Cranseer, as he is the mage general of Eredin. Also, there could be a link to the White Frost. The Hounds could be agents or even early manifestation of the White Frost, the apocalyptic force prophesied to destroy the world. If the Hunt is seeking to control or harness the White Frost, then these beasts might be protoforms of what happens when nature itself succumbs to magical entropy. I believe the first theory to be more likely, that they were made like golems. However, there is another less likely but possible origin theory. These hounds may once have been living creatures, possibly dire wolves or creatures native to NL world, that were transformed through ancient NL magic into spectral beasts. Their transformation might strip them of pain and free will, turning them into obedient tools of the Hound. No matter which origin story is true, you can't deny they are effective weapons. These hounds are relentless predators, They attack with claws and teeth, aiming to knock down their prey before delivering the final blow. When wounded, they enter a frenzied state, becoming even more dangerous. Their icy nature allows them to freeze the ground, creating sharp spikes of ice to impale their victims. They are especially potent during blizzards or in glacial regions, drawing strength from the cold. Despite their formidable abilities, the hounds have vulnerabilities. They are susceptible to the ignisign, which exploits their elemental weakness to fire. The axisine can momentarily disrupt their aggression, providing a brief respite. Elementa oil applied to blades increases damage against them, and dimeritium bombs can hinder their magical abilities. Caution is advised as they often hunt in packs, overwhelming and unprepared. These hounds sometimes happen to get lost. The most famous example is the Aperian Phantom. The Witcher Wiki says, the Aperian Phantom is a powerful Hound of the Wild hound who strayed from its pack during one of their numerous raids. One day, while aimlessly wandering, it came across the Honeyfield Midworks, a bee farm owned by a rich halfling family, where it destroyed numerous beehives and killed a few farmhands before running away into a nearby construction site. The Hounds of the Wild Hunt are more than mere monsters. They are harbingers of doom, embodying the chilling terror that the Wild Hunt brings. Facing them requires courage, preparation, and a deep understanding of their nature. Now, as always, let's hear their bestiary.
Baying at the heels of the wild hunt are its hounds, fierce beasts which follow it like dust clouds trailing after a comet. Hushed legends speak of them losing their way at times and descending from the night sky to earth, cold and death following in their wake. Essie Blackjack Davin Trebarets. Born, or so some experts believe, of magic ice crystal, the hounds of the wild hunt race alongside their spectral masters. Like ravenous, feral dogs, they are capable only of mindlessly attacking whatever crosses their path. The hounds' chief weapons are their claws and teeth. Their battle tactics rely on knocking their opponents to the ground before tearing them to shreds. Badly wounded hounds fall into a kind of frenzy that adds to their deadly might. These beasts also use their powers over the cold to freeze the ground around them and create sharp spikes of ice, creatures born of frost. They feel pain from the ignisin, and there is also reason to believe Axii can momentarily weaken their drive to kill and somewhat weaken these fierce foes. The hounds' icy nature also means they can draw strength from extreme cold, thus one should be particularly on guard when fighting them during blizzards or in glacial regions. Elven legends likewise claim they gain strength when a red moon, a known herald of the hunt's arrival, hangs in the sky.
Gargoyles are extremely dangerous opponents. They are like golems, a big chunk of stone without the weaknesses that comes from an organic body. Etched out of granite or marble, they are able to withstand tremendous amounts of damage and exhibit superhuman strength. One blow from their boulder-like fist can crush even a man clad in heavy armor, and distance offers no safety. Gargoyles are capable of throwing hunks of stone with deadly precision. Due to their considerable size and weight, the art sign is useless against them. And as beings made of stone, they feel no pain from fire, rendering the ignisign equally ineffective. Weapons that cause bleeding or poison have no effect. After all, there is no blood to spill in solid rock. Thankfully, they are not invincible. Gargoyles are vulnerable to silver blades and dimeterium bombs. These bombs disrupt the magic that animates them, weakening or even neutralizing their power. They are very similar to golems, basically the same, but there are subtle differences that sets them apart. So what is the difference between a golem and a gargoyle? In the Witcher universe, golems and gargoyles are both magical constructs, but they differ in origin and design. Golems are more utilitarian, built by mages from clay or stone to serve as obedient guards or laborers. They are brute force creatures animated purely through magical energy, with no real personality or flair. Gargoyles, on the other hand, are more decorative and ceremonial. They are typically sculpted from marble or granite to resemble grotesque creatures, then enchanted to serve as guardians. Unlike golems, some gargoyles have abilities like teleportation and range attacks, making them more unpredictable. While both are mindless servants, gargoyles are often tied to specific places like ancient towers or ruins, blending into their surroundings until they come to life. In essence, golems are magical machines, functional and strong, while gargoyles are enchanted statues with a touch of menace and mystery. From ancient times, sorceresses have had the knowledge to breathe life into inanimate matter. Through this ancient magic, they created stone servants. Gargoyles specifically were brought into being to guard and protect. Though many have become mere decorations in ruined cities, a few remain enchanted and still dangerous. Take the gargoyles of Loch Muin, for example. They were once part of the city's defense, and some of them continue to function to this day, attacking the intruders without hesitation. Scholars of magic still debate their classification. Many consider them a type of golem, animated sculptures programmed with simple commands. They are not scientists, they can't think, but they can carry out basic tasks, usually guarding a location long after their creators has turned to dust. Yet despite their simplicity, gargoyles can surprise even an experienced witcher. Some have the ability to teleport. Just when you think you've landed a blow, they vanish only to reappear elsewhere. Worse still, they may appear directly above their target, dropping down like a stone meteor to crush anyone caught beneath. Witchers, thanks to their medallions, can sense magical disturbances and predict where a gargoyle is about to materialize. That gives them just enough time to dodge. Ordinary people, on the other hand, are not so lucky. Fighting a gargoyle means battling solid rock. Poisons won't help, fire won't help, oils that cause bleeding are useless. Because of their mass, they can't be unbalanced or knocked down. And traps won't hold them. They will simply teleport away. They nearly have no weaknesses at all, except of course the knowledge and silver sword of a witcher. Let's read its Witcher Bestiary before going into mythology part.
It just me? Or is that gargoyle ogling us? Lara Estevan, burglar from Loch Muny. Gargoyles are stone statues brought to life by magic in order to guard mages' laboratories and lairs from intruders. Their appearance alone has scared off more than one prospective burglar. Those who do not take fright at the sight of these horned and winged monstrosities usually die shortly thereafter, torn to shreds by stony claws.
Gargoyles are fancy and horror creatures inspired by the beast-like statues often seen in architecture, especially those added to Notre Dame Cathedral during its 19th century restoration. While many think these designs are medieval, most of the well-known grotesque figures are actually more recent. The term gargoyle originally referred to water sprouts carved into buildings, but over time it's been mistakenly used to describe all monstrous stone figures. In mythology, these statues were believed to ward off evil spirits. The idea of them coming to life, however, is more modern concept. Like golems, gargoyles in fiction are usually made of magically animated stone. They often have animalistic or hybrid features and are portrayed as guardians of places like cathedrals or castles. Sometimes they are shown as being possessed by demons or as living race that resembles statues. For much of the 20th century, fictional gargoyles were typically evil and used in horror stories. But in the 1990s, this image began to shift. The animated TV show Gargoyles helped popularize the idea of them as a heroic protectors. And since then, they've often been depicted as sympathetic characters who might even work alongside humans. Well, that was it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and until the next one, goodbye.